Nene, Bloody Mary. Y'all know her. Y'all heard her voice before. Somewhere, somehow. We just gonna wait till she get in the booth. Where she go wild.
Yeah, right.
Like Clark Kent, got the glasses on.
Yeah, a lot of them got killed as a result of that record, though. On both sides.
So that record caused a lot of murders.
A lot of murders. Girls, guys, yeah.
Me, Lil Hawk, B-Braves, Laniac, man, Spider, Bloody Mary, all of them are gone. Except me, all of them are gone. All of them are gone.
She never topped the Billboard charts. She never earned a platinum record. But talk to any true hip-hop fan about Bloody Mary, and they'll tell you she was the real deal.
Nene in the flesh, on the full clip, new record.
Yeah.
We just gonna wait till she get in the booth. Where she go wild.
Yeah, right.
Like Clark Kent, got the glasses on.
She had the bars, the voice, the presence, and she blessed the game with a verse that's still ranked among the greatest in gangsta rap history. But sadly, she was a superstar. The mainstream never got to see shine. Let's dive in. To really understand the force of nature that was Bloody Mary, you've got to start with where Rajni Falks came from and how far she had to fall before she found her place in the streets of the West Coast. Born on July 21st, 1970 in Steubenville, Ohio, Rajni grew up miles away from the gang culture that would later define her identity. Steubenville was a quiet, blue-collar town, industrial, uneventful, and far removed from the violence that plagued Los Angeles in the 90s. Up until she moved, she had absolutely no ties to gangs, no bloodshed, no block politics. That life hadn't touched her yet. Everything changed when she moved to Compton, California. It wasn't just a new home, it was a whole new world. One day she was just a girl from Ohio. The next, she was walking into a battlefield. An all-out war between Bloods and Crips, where survival required more than just smarts. Compton was a shock to the system. Every corner had history, every street had stories, and the city didn't care if you were ready for it or not. It was either adapt or get swallowed whole. That's where her transformation began. But there's a deeper, darker story behind why she jumped straight into the gang life so quickly. And even though some parts of it are still rumors whispered through the streets, they paint a haunting picture. Word has it, according to people like DJ Battlecat, who were close to the scene, that she may have been SA'd either right before or just after her arrival in Compton. That kind of trauma can flip a switch inside you, make you drop everything you were, and run toward anything that promises strength and protection. That might have been the moment Rajni Falks became Bloody Mary. So she didn't just join the Piru Bloods, she became one with them. Her main set was the Avenue Piru gang in Inglewood, which was wild because they weren't even from Compton. They were the first Piru set outside it. But even if her roots weren't in Compton dirt, her loyalty was real. She was deeply connected to the Avenue Piru gang, and she also developed ties with the Fruittown Piru on the east side. She wasn't just somebody saying words into a mic. She lived what she rhymed.
My girl Nene X, she was from Dayton. She didn't, but she fell in with, with the blood.
Bloody Mary, R.I.P.
Yeah, Bloody Mary.
Her entry into hip-hop came from an unexpected direction. It wasn't her blood homies who brought her into the studio. It was actually a Crip, a rapper by the name of Tweety Bird Locke, who was from the Kelly Park Compton Crips, spotted her. He saw her raw potential, her energy, the way she carried herself. He knew something big was there. He linked her with producer Ron Phillips, the man behind Dangerous Records. At first, Ron wasn't really trying to hear it. A female rapper on a hardcore gang album, that wasn't the vision. But Bloody Mary wasn't asking for permission. She pulled up, demanded to be heard, and made it clear she was going to be part of whatever came next. That next thing was something nobody saw coming. In 1993, the LA rap scene was booming. N.W.A. had already ripped the lid off the city's reality. Ice Cube was speaking truth to power, and Snoop was turning Long Beach slang into poetry. But in the middle of all that, something deeper was happening. A lot of gang members from the streets felt like rappers were making money talking about a life they didn't really live. They were tired of studio gangsters getting rich off their reality. Out of that frustration came an idea so bold it was almost impossible. Two men, OYG Redrum 781 from the Avenue Piru gang and Tweety Bird Locke from KPCC, came up with a concept that could have only been born in the trenches. What if Bloods and Crips came together on the same record, not to shoot at each other, but to out-rap one another instead of bullets, bars, instead of funerals, maybe a few record deals. They brought the idea to Ronnie Ron and pitched it as a way for real gang members to make money without having to pull triggers.
Me and Tweety Bird came up with the concept of Bangin on Wax. Me and Tweety Bird took it to Robert Lewis, which was his studio. So he took the idea to Ronnie Phillips, and then that's when the album was made, that's when history was made, and that's when they f***ed us over.
16 people from the streets would record an album, 8 Bloods, 8 Crips, and the world would hear the truth straight from the source. That album would become Bangin on Wax. And right in the middle of it all was Bloody Mary. She chose her own name, tapping into something both terrifying and unshakable.
Red is the color identified with the Bloods. The Crips wear blue. 16 gang members have put aside their weapons and their differences and united as rappers.
We're trying to show them that we can come together, make a record, and show positive issues, and at the same time prove that we have talents other than just pulling triggers and doing whatever.
As you can imagine, getting Bloods and Crips in the same room wasn't easy. At the start of the project, many of the gang members didn't even want to be in the same space, let alone collaborate. The atmosphere in the studio was thick with tension. Crips sat on one side, Bloods on the other, hands never too far from the weapons they carried in from the streets. Tech 9s, AKs, .357s. Ron Phillips, the producer, had his hands full. He had to play peacekeeper, reminding everyone that the studio was neutral territory. Whatever beef they had, it had to stay on the beat, not boil over into real violence.
I mean, I didn't know half the guys, but they came there, no violence. I mean, there was a little confrontations, but when everybody understood, hey man, we're here to make records, we're not here to fight and kill each other, we're here to make records, it was cool.
Despite that, the work got done, and fast. The whole album, Bangin on Wax, was recorded in about 2 weeks. It dropped on March 9th, 1993, and the streets went crazy for it. This was no fantasy rap. These were the real voices of the neighborhoods you heard about on the news, straight from the people who lived it. Both sides took shots at each other on the album, but the consensus among the gang members was that rapping was a far safer and more productive way to seek revenge.
Later on down the line, we will put these away, you know what I'm saying, to be able to kick it amongst one another without having to say, damn, that's a Blood, or I'm a Crip, you know what I'm saying, we can just kick it. Homeboys, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be loved ones, yeah, it's gonna be a black thing.
The album climbed to number 86 on the Billboard 200, and by the time the dust settled, it had sold over 500,000 copies. It went gold. For an underground street album made by people who weren't even artists in the traditional sense, that was huge. It proved something that had been simmering under the surface. Audiences were hungry for the truth, the real, unfiltered truth. Bloody Mary was all over the album. She jumped in on tracks like Rip a Crab in Half, No Way Out, and CK Ride, but there's no question about where she made her mark. Her legend is tied forever to one song, Pyru Love. Pyru Love wasn't just a blood anthem, it was a cultural shift. Structured around a smooth, funk-heavy sample of Zapp and Rogers' Computer Love, the song featured 4 blood artists, Lil Stretch, Red Rum 781, Lil Leak, CK, and of course, Bloody Mary. It became the most iconic track to come from the Bangin on Wax era, but what etched it into hip-hop history was Mary's opening verse. Even now, hip-hop historians and old heads swear that what she did in that verse has never been matched. She took 16 bars and turned them into a map of the entire Blood universe, name-checking almost every active Blood or Pyru set in Los Angeles County. No fillers, no throwaways. Every line was repping someone, somewhere, with pinpoint precision. In one breath, she could take you from Compton Boulevard to Pasadena, calling out dozens of sets like she was reading from a Bible of Piru history. She kicked it off like this. Now in the bitey of Compton, Lime Hood is down with the mob. Hollywood and Cross Atlantic off of Compton Boulevard. Every town has an Elm Street, but not a Freddy Krueger. Don't get caught in the jungles or a park called Looters. She wasn't just spitting names for shock value. She created a lyrical roadmap that let anybody familiar with LA's gang geography know she wasn't lying about where she came from. She went on Rosecrans, past Oleander at the light, Treetop is to the left, Fruittowne is on the right, 151s and Westside Pirates slay past dark, and the only other Blood hood is Campanella Park. Line by line, set by set, she dropped them all. Lime Hood, Hollywood, Cross Atlantic, Elm Street, Treetop Pyru, Fruittowne Pyru, her people. But she didn't stop there. She continued, shouting out hoods like Bounty Hunters, Outlaws, Rollin' 30s, and Six Deuce Brims. She weaved together hoods like Cabbage Patch, Center Park, Harvard Park, and Hawthorne, bridging the lines between neighborhoods that weren't even connected by streets, only united by the flag they flew. She took it to different corners of the city: Cabbage Patch, Center Park, Harvard Park, Athens Park 2, Scottsdale, Neighborhood, Hawthorne, Waterfront, all Pyrus, LA, Denver Lanes. There's more in Pasadena. Avenues, Bloodstone, Inglewood Family, The Pueblos, Bloodstone Villains, Black Pea Stone, Circle City, and Eastside Bishops got it going on. Then she closed out the verse with a shot that's still talked about today, a line so sharp it lived in the streets long after the record stopped spinning, with the MGs, Queen Street, VNGs, Ain't No Stoppin' the Village Town, Eastside Pain, Crenshaw Mafia, Bebop Watts, City Stones, and the Skylines. Don't say cuz blood, this is Pyru all the time.
Don't say cuz blood, this is Pyru all the time.
And then, the mic drop moment came in the second verse. Pyru is Crip in reverse, but the C's on its back. That one line made waves everywhere. It was perfectly delivered in her deep, booming voice. She wrote a thesis on set culture, and in doing so, cemented herself as one of the greatest gangsta rappers ever to touch a mic. But the biggest twist in the song is that the person singing the hook, the part that made the whole world fall in love with the track, wasn't even a Blood. It was Faux Clips Eclipse, a Crip from Compton. That alone showed what the project was trying to do. No matter how deep the streets ran, they made the music bigger than the war. With Bangin' on Wax, Bloody Mary didn't just make a name for herself. She made history, standing out not just as the only woman on the album, but as one of the sharpest, smartest voices ever to come out of the gangsta rap era. With the song blowing up in the underground scene, it was only natural that Bloody Mary was ready to make her next move. The streets knew her name, the critics respected her pen, and the world was listening. In 1994, she dropped her debut solo album, She's Dangerous, under a new alias, Nene X. It didn't make a splash on the Billboard charts, but that wasn't really the point. This was her chance to show the world she didn't need a gang cipher or a posse cut to tear through beats. She could stand alone and still shake the room. Before that, she had already been making major noise alongside Crip-turned-producer Tweety Bird Locke. As strange as it sounds, their collaboration had started back in 1992, before Bangin' on Wax was even an idea. You can hear her spit some raw, unfiltered fire on Tweety Bird Locke's 187 Ride By album. Tracks like My D is Prejudice, Comin' Out the Cage, and Murder One all had her signature aggressive swag stamped on them. That album was grimy, political, and very much a reflection of LA's street reality, and she fit right into that sonic atmosphere. It was also around this time she showed the world that the unity from Bangin' on Wax wasn't just studio talk. A beef came out of nowhere, straight from Miami. Luther Luke Campbell, aka Uncle Luke, dropped a song called Cowards in Compton, where he disrespected the whole West Coast, making it seem like the Compton streets were soft. That just didn't sit right. Bloody Mary decided to clap back with a diss track of her own, F. Luke, sometimes called Crush Luke. And she didn't come alone. She made something huge happen with that track, something that went deeper than rap beef. She reached across the battle lines and pulled in both Bloods and Crips to unite against a common outsider. She brought in Blood affiliate Red Rum 781, and also teamed up with Crips like Tweety Bird Locke and AWOL from Kelly Park. For a minute, the color lines blurred. As Mary famously said on the track, there were ain't no cowards in Compton, and they were going to prove it together. That diss track was a statement of pride and power.
I eat whack fools like you for breakfast. Ain't no cowards in Compton. You and your hood.
But for everything she was doing in the booth, the business side of things wasn't treating her right. Despite the momentum, Bloody Mary ran headfirst into one of the biggest problems of that era: shady independent labels. She realized she wasn't seeing the money she deserved and wasn't being respected. Financial disputes with her label, Dangerous Records, started piling up. Her producer, Ronnie Ron, even admitted later that he felt like a flunky to the white-owned distribution system that was passing out crumbs to the artists while they kept the real profits. Once Mary saw the truth, she cut ties. She didn't just want fame, she wanted ownership. Her break came that same year, thanks to one of the most feared and powerful figures in hip-hop at the time, Suge Knight. Suge was running Death Row Records like a mafia boss. His affiliation with the mob Pyru Bloods meant he already had his ear to the streets. When he heard Bloody Mary's verse on Pyrop Love, he was blown away. That fire, that voice, that detail. She had the kind of authenticity Suge was always drawn to. He personally reached out and signed her to Death Row Records. The deal came with an upfront $12,000 payment, which was huge for someone fresh off an indie label and royalty headaches. She was officially part of the Death Row machine. She made an early appearance on Untouchable, a hard-hitting track featuring the Lady of Rage and Storm, showing she could hold her own right next to some of the label's toughest women. Behind the scenes, she was laying down tracks at Can-Am Studios in Tarzana, California, between 1994 and 1996. The plan was for all of that work to make up her debut album on the label.
It eventually has to come to this, the day you now here, so roll with your death wish.
But Death Row was falling apart by the day. Legal troubles, jail time, infighting, it was chaos. Tupac's death in 1996 was a shockwave that shook the whole label. Shelved projects piled up, and Mary's solo project ended up being one of them. Her songs, her voice, her potential, they all got locked away in Death Row's vaults while she stood watching the empire crumble from the inside. Still, she never stopped pushing. In 2003, long after the hype died down, Dangerous Records quietly released a second album under her name, Day of Resurrection. It wasn't a brand new studio album, but rather a 22-track compilation. It included her Bangin' on Wax material, her songs from She's Dangerous, and a few unreleased cuts that had been gathering dust. One of the standouts was By Get Lifted, a sharp, biting track she recorded with B. Brazy, a fellow Blood affiliate with his own strong legacy. And just to remind people of the past, she dropped Piru Love 2002, an updated version of her biggest classic. Now, Bangin' on Wax was a major turning point in Bloody Mary's life, the project that really put her in the spotlight. But the piece that held up inside the studio crumbled the minute they stepped back outside. Someone who was there summed it up perfectly. It didn't last long. What started as a symbol of peace eventually turned into a bloodbath, because real life doesn't follow the script. When faces and affiliations were put on an album full of gangster threats and hardcore disses, it didn't calm anything down. It poured gasoline on already burning streets. Legendary rapper B.G. Knockout, known for his work alongside Eazy-E on Real G's, reflected on the dangers of the project. He revealed that he was invited to participate in the original Bangin' on Wax album, but ultimately declined.
They wanted me to diss my enemies, to diss the red side, and all these different things. And I was like, man, that's crazy. I was like, what you people trying to do here? Like that's crazy. I wouldn't even be able to live.
According to him, the concept was flawed from the start. The idea of dissing your enemies, people you were already beefing with, in a public, highly provocative way, was, in his words, crazy. Knockout explained that during the 90s, an era he described as the worst time for gangbanging, throwing out such explicit insults on a widely distributed platform was essentially suicidal.
Like insulting entire gangs with the worst type of insults that they can make.
And
it's right there. It's right there in the title.
At the worst era of gangbanging, which was the 1990s. Just think about that. That was side pretty much, you know?
The album made these guys famous, but it also made them targets. And the numbers don't lie. Almost every rapper tied to the project was either killed or spent serious time looking over their shoulder. One surviving member once said, "Almost all of them are gone. That's not just sad, that's terrifying." Take the Damu Ritas, for example, the Bloods collective that formed after Bangin' on Wax 2. They weren't just rappers, they were active frontline gang members. Of the 9 core members, 7 of them died, nearly all murdered. B. Brazy was one of the rawest on the mic, known for his energy, confidence, and a killer flow.
We get ours by death, huh? Basically, where do retirement papers come in, blood? At what age do I turn into a kickback OG gangster or some old shit? Man, that ain't gonna never happen, blood. My goals in life ain't to be an OG, period. For real.
YG for life, huh, with him?
I mean, on lanes, think I'm an old YG, period. That's the best I could be.
He and Bloody Mary teamed up on tracks like Be Get Lifted, delivering lines that made heads nod and chests tighten. But with that visibility came a price. In May 2003, Brazy was shot multiple times outside a motel in Inglewood. He was only 28. Then there was Peanut 2, another Denver Lane Blood, who was shot 17 times in 1995 by rival Crips. Just like that, gone. Lil Laniac 2 was ambushed in his car. His daughter was with him. Tiptoe, Spider, the Mad Eye Twins, members of the Crenshaw Mafia Bloods, one by one, they all fell. And it wasn't just the Bloods who paid the price. On the Crip side, it was the same tragic pattern. Faux Clips Eclipse, the dude who sang that smooth hook on Pyru Love, easily the most iconic track to come from that movement, was shot and killed in Compton in 1998. Then there was AWOL, a Kelly Park Compton Crip who wasn't taken out by rival Bloods, but by police in 1997. Every way you looked, life was getting snuffed out at a terrifying rate. Meanwhile, people like Redrum 781, one of Bloody Mary's closest collaborators and a respected figure in the Avenue Piru Bloods, watched it all unfold. Redrum helped make tracks like Pyru Love historic. It was him, Bloody Mary, and Faux Clips Eclipse. 3 voices, 3 energies, 1 unforgettable performance. By 2021, Redrum was the last man standing out of that trio. He later passed from cancer, but before he did, he spoke on all that loss, all the funerals, all the lives that didn't make it past that brief moment of unity on wax. Of the 3 of us on Pyru Love, he said, only I lived long enough to tell the story. As for Bloody Mary, she made it through things most people wouldn't survive. She dodged the bullets of street politics, cut ties with shady record labels, and watched as friends and collaborators, most of them legends in their own right, were swallowed whole by the life they rapped about. But for all the war zones she walked through and all the fires she outlived, her end came from the last place anyone would have expected. On a regular Monday, November 18th, 2006, Bloody Mary was just vibing through Compton on her motorcycle, just cruising on her way to a Harley-Davidson event. But Compton has a way of turning peace into chaos on a dime. She didn't even see it coming. A truck fleeing from officers came speeding down and slammed into her bike. The crash was devastating. Mary was thrown from her bike and hit the ground hard. Her body suffered massive trauma, crushed lungs, crushed hips, terrifying brain damage. Doctors did what they could. She was hooked up to machines, kept alive only by wires and prayers. But after 3 long days with no sign of recovery, her family faced the unthinkable choice. On November 21st, 2006, they let her go. Bloody Mary was gone at just 36 years old. And here's the part that stings deeper than any gang beef ever could. The person who caused all this was never truly held accountable. There were no names released. No court cases the public could point to, just a faceless hit and run fueled by a reckless escape. Her family had to add that mystery to their pain, her sister confirming the life she lived, her mother traveling from Ohio to bring her daughter's body back home. It's almost too much to make sense of. A woman who braved the flames of Piru-drenched Compton, who was at the core of Bangin on Wax, ended not by a bullet, but by senseless street chaos. One of the few who survived the Bangin on Wax era, Big Y, summed it up without sugarcoating anything. Bloody Mary, all of them are gone except me. He was one of the last ones left standing after nearly the entire cast of that historic experiment was wiped out. In his grief, he turned to music the way only a real one does. With Pyru Love 3000, Big Y laid roses in song form, saluting the fallen soldiers, especially Bloody Mary. He rapped, "I know you're looking down from above. Rest in peace, Bloody Mary, with much love." A nod to her voice, her fire, her presence that lingered long after the mic turned cold. Even though she's gone, Bloody Mary is still carved into the DNA of West Coast hip-hop. She wasn't just a rapper, she was the definition of authentic. She was someone who earned her stripes the hard way, and her voice still echoes through speakers like a story and a legend.